In the 3rd year of our marriage, Zane secretly kept a younger, more delicate girl outside, without my knowledge. People around us always said that I was his white moonlight, his soft spot. But after getting drunk, he laughed and said, "Lynn, after marrying you, I realized you're nothing special." The man who swore at 17 that he would love me for a lifetime. Now, he was consoling the young girl, "She's so boring, of course, I love you the most, babe." The day I left, as usual, no one noticed anything unusual. The servant smiled and asked, "Are you going out for shopping and tea?" I smiled softly and nodded, "No need to prepare dinner tonight." When you hear someone's true intentions, it burns away all the distractions, as the wind scatters its ashes. Zane didn't know, but the stubborn Lynn was a tough one. Forgiveness had never been in her dictionary. Holding my coat, the bag in my hand contained liver-protecting pills. The hallway was long, and the light cast shadows on the oil paintings, refracting into vibrant hues, which scattered across the floor. In the room at the end of the hall, the laughter grew louder and louder. Zane had rented out the entire floor for years. No one could approach, so they didn't even bother closing the door. My heel caught on the long carpet fibers as I bent down. Suddenly, my necklace snapped, and pearls of all sizes scattered across the floor. A sharp pain suddenly pierced my heart. I was about to crouch down and pick up the scattered pearls. Then I heard Zane's voice. "Stop, I'm not as sentimental as you all. My first love, my white moonlight, my one true love, is only my wife." He was probably drunk, and his slurred voice was full of pride and smugness. I couldn't help but press my lips together, holding the cool pearls in my hand. My heart seemed to unfold, as if it had been smoothed out. Zane suddenly sighed, "After marrying her, I realized she's nothing special." Suddenly, I clenched my fist. The pearls dug into the soft skin of my palm, and my smile froze at the corners of my lips. A soft, delicate voice suddenly rang out, tinged with resentment and frustration, "What about me, Zane? You said your one true love is only your wife, then what am I to you? Just last night you said you loved me the most." The men all laughed. "Silly girl, do you believe what men say in bed? Besides, loving your wife is natural. What are you fighting for as a mistress? Zane? Look at them." The girl's voice trembled with tears, sounding pitiful and heart-wrenching. "Enough, why are you bothering her?" Zane's voice deepened, sounding somewhat annoyed. "She's my legitimate girlfriend, be careful with your words." "No way, Zane, are you serious?" Zane lightly murmured, "She's been with me since she was 18, I have to take responsibility." "Beast. You took action as soon as she came of age. Aren't you afraid your wife will cause a scene?" Zane laughed, "She depends on me for everything, what can she do? Anyway, keep your mouth shut, I love my wife and don't want to upset her." "You love your wife so much, then what about me?" The young girl began to protest again. Zane reached out and pulled the girl closer, holding her in his arms, to comfort her. "Is it really necessary to cry over such trivial matters?" The young girl choked on her words, acting coquettishly. "Zane, I want you to say you love me the most, even if you're lying, I'll accept it willingly." "All right, baby, she's so boring, of course, I love you the most." I stood in the shadow outside the door, suddenly laughing. The man who once swore to love me for a lifetime was now comforting a younger girl. But I didn't even want to confront him. One act of betrayal was enough. I turned and walked down the long corridor. 17-year-old Zane secretly carved my name into his desk. He said, "Zane loves Lynn, and will love her for a lifetime." Yet, his lifetime was only a fleeting 10 years. The day Zane came back, I was already downstairs having breakfast. He rushed in holding a large bouquet and gifts, his face filled with apology and guilt. "Sorry, honey, I stayed too late with business last night and couldn't make it back in time." He had promised when we married that no matter how busy he was, he would never stay out overnight. But in the past 6 months, he's been coming home later and later, and this time, he didn't come back at all. I put down my chopsticks and looked up at him. He had changed into a suit, shirt, and tie. The clean, crisp scent on him was striking. It was hard to believe how meticulously he dressed. He put the bouquet down, walked over, and tried to kiss me. Honey, I swear, this is the first time, and the last. But I raised my hand to block him and asked, slowly, did you stay at the office last night? Zane didn't hesitate for a moment. Yes, look, I'm wearing the clothes you prepared for me. After speaking, he gently held my shoulder and looked at me cautiously. Honey, are you upset? I'll spend the whole day with you. I won't go to the office, okay? I looked at him, watching myself reflected in his eyes. His gaze didn't shift or falter, showing no signs of guilt. And yet, I managed to hide my sadness completely. I pushed his hand away. Let's eat first. Just as he sat down, his phone rang. I saw him frown and hang up. But soon, it rang again. He hesitated for a few seconds, then hung up once more. Immediately after, a message came in. After reading it, Zane's brow furrowed tightly. Lynn, there's an urgent matter at the company. Forget it, I'll have Lynn you handle it, I promise to spend the whole day with you. He said this, but his face betrayed his restless thoughts. It's fine, the company matters more, go ahead. I looked at him calmly, even the pain in my heart felt numb. Zane hesitated for a moment before standing up. I'll try to come back as soon as I can to be with you. I gave a soft and watched him rush into the car and leave. Only then did I realize and wipe the cold tears from my face. I called my best friend. Emma, help me book an appointment for the physical checkup at your hospital today. After the results came back, I breathed a sigh of relief. My body was still healthy, and I wasn't pregnant. When I married Zane, my health wasn't great, so we never had children. But just to be safe, I still had a thorough checkup. Doctor, I'd like to ask how my health is recovering now. After receiving a positive answer, I felt the heavy, lingering anxiety lift from my heart. Holding the report, I walked out and turned the corner, just in time to hear Zane's name. Zane, if I really am pregnant, can I keep the baby? I stopped in my tracks and looked at the two people not far away. Zane was holding a cigarette, his brow furrowed, looking a bit impatient. The young girl, with a bare face, was crying, her face drenched in tears. She was tugging at his sleeve, pleading with him. Zane sneered. My wife hasn't even had a baby yet, do you think it's your turn? But this is my first baby, I can't bear to let it go. I promise I'll be good, never cause you trouble, and never let your wife know about me or the baby. Zane patted her face with the hand holding the cigarette. Don't be naive, babe. You won't be able to carry this baby. Be good, and I'll buy you a house after the miscarriage. But if you don't miscarry, Tara, let me make one thing clear, there are plenty of beautiful, obedient girls at your school. I could sleep with a different one every day, and it wouldn't be a big deal. You're not the only one. The young girl was intimidated by his words, her face pale, tears still hanging on her cheeks. I'll be good, Zane, please don't leave me. I'll obediently go for the checkup, but honey, you said your wife is too unhealthy to bear children. If I am really pregnant, I'll have the baby for her, and she can raise it. I won't fight or compete for it, okay? Zane remained silent for a moment. Go for the checkup first, we'll talk after. The young girl sniffled and pushed the door open. Zane finished his cigarette and extinguished it. As he turned, I pretended to be walking by just then. Upon seeing me, he seemed momentarily stunned. But quickly, his expression shifted to one of concern. Honey, why did you come to the hospital? Are you feeling unwell or hurt somewhere? Zane grabbed my arm, looking extremely anxious. Why didn't you call me? Why did you come to the hospital alone? He looked me up and down, his eyes filled with urgent concern. It was as though, over these 10 years, his love for me had never diminished in the slightest. My hands and feet gradually grew cold, as though icy chills were creeping through my bones. How could Zane play the role of such a loving husband? Every time he called me honey, his mistress was in a nearby room, getting checked to see if she was pregnant. Yet he managed to show no cracks in his facade in front of me. So much so, that I could barely tell which Zane was the real him. I'm fine. I just came to visit a friend. He sighed with relief and hugged me tightly. You scared me to death, honey. Zane, are you really worried about me? I asked, looking at him softly. He hugged me tightly. How could I not worry? When I married you, your health was so bad. I spent 3 years taking care of you, just so you could get better. Honey, do you know that when I saw you just now, I nearly lost my mind? If something happened to you, how would I live? I wanted to laugh, but my lips were stiff. My lips trembled uncontrollably, as though I had a mouthful of hot oil. I asked him, then why are you here at the hospital? He tightened his grip on my arm. Oh, I came to visit an elder, there in the hospital. But this was the obstetrics and gynecology department. However, I didn't expose him. On the way home, Zane's phone kept ringing. He simply turned it off. Today, even if the king himself comes, I'll stay home with you. I didn't say anything, just looked at the street scene outside the window. The road back took us past our high school alma mater. The familiar scenes, once sweet, now felt like a honey-coated blade, stabbing at my heart. My vision blurred for some reason. And as it blurred, I seemed to see the old me and Zane again. Lynn, please don't be angry. I'm begging you, listen to my explanation, just one sentence. Fine, just one sentence. 2 sentences, okay? Just 2. Young Zane tugged at my sleeve with a mischievous grin, refusing to let go. Go away, Zane. Don't cry, please. Hit me, Lynn, slap me as hard as you want, just don't shed any tears. My phone, which had been in my bag, suddenly dinged, interrupting my thoughts and snapping me back to reality. I took out my phone, and the message was from an unfamiliar number. He said you're in poor health, and can never fully enjoy it. You haven't changed positions in 3 years of marriage, and he's had enough. He also doesn't like using condoms, and said if you get pregnant, he'll let me have the baby, since you can't get pregnant anyway. Miss Lynn, what's the point of you even being here if you're so useless? I suddenly laughed. Zane looked at me curiously. Honey, what's so funny? I locked the screen, and nonchalantly said, my best friend invited me for afternoon tea, I forgot, and she's scolding me right now. Zane seemed to suddenly breathe a sigh of relief. So, are you still going? Of course, otherwise Emma won't leave me alone for 3 days. You should go to the company and do your work. Zane looked displeased. I'm getting jealous of Emma. You always favor her. I really don't want you to go. Wouldn't it be better if we just had some time for ourselves? I turned to look at him, but he had already made a U-turn, preparing to head back. I smiled faintly and turned my face away. There will be other times. That's right, we have a lifetime ahead of us. I won't compete with Emma this time. He dropped me off at the private club and hurriedly drove off. Half an hour later, Tara sent me another message. Has he just abandoned you? Look, he said that if I cry, he'll soften. By the way, I'm pregnant. He wants me to keep the baby, and he says he prefers daughters. But I want to have a son for him. I've calculated it, this one's definitely going to be a boy. It's just a shame, the doctor says we can't sleep together in the early stages of pregnancy. I haven't even worn the new lingerie he bought me. His needs have always been high, and you can't satisfy him, he's definitely going to be frustrated. I didn't reply, just took screenshots of all the messages she sent. My hands trembled a little as I did it. Perhaps Zane had played his role too convincingly over the years. I had been too naive, trusting him too much. So when his absurd and chaotic side was revealed, I still couldn't control my emotions. The tenderness in bed that once moved me was all a lie. He had long grown tired of our lukewarm relationship. When I thought restraint was love, reality slapped me hard across the face. The increasingly rare intimacy wasn't because of love or care, but because he couldn't enjoy it fully, so even pretending to care was too much effort. Before heading home, I called my former teacher. Lynn? You've been so long without calling me. Teacher, does your research team still need people? I want to join. Is your health up to it? I had wanted to join after graduation. The teacher had especially hoped I would join her. But back then, my health was too poor, and the research team had to travel all over, both domestically and internationally. Many places had harsh conditions, and roughing it was common. I just had a physical checkup. The doctor said there's no major issue as long as I take care. Is your husband okay with it? Lynn, you have to understand, if you join, you'll be away for extended periods. Many of our projects are state secrets, and you'll hardly be in contact with your family. Teacher, I've decided to get a divorce. Did he do something to hurt you? I nodded with a smile, swallowing my tears. Yes, he cheated. After 10 years of marriage, are you really sure about your decision? Teacher, do you remember what you told me when you were about to divorce? He has his heart, but when it's torn apart, it burns and the ashes scatter with the wind. My eyes were red, tears streaming down my face. Teacher, I was taught by you, of course, I'm just like you. Good, good. Lynn, I'll be waiting for you to join us. This should be the first time since our marriage that I actively asked Zane for money. He laughed happily on the phone. Wife, isn't my money all yours? You can just swipe my card whenever you want. It's different. I was rarely this stubborn. All right, I'll have the finance department transfer the money to you right now. Zane, I'm not taking your money for nothing. I have a gift for you as well. 3 days later, go to the reception office of our high school. Find Mr. Sung in the office. Do you remember him? He'll give you the gift. Zane laughed upon hearing this. How could I forget? I transferred in senior year, but I wrote you hundreds of love letters during the first 2 years of high school. He was the one who collected them for me. I also smiled. Then don't forget to pick it up in 3 days. I won't forget, wife. I'm already looking forward to it. Once Zane's transfer arrived, I immediately donated the money anonymously to my teacher's research team. I printed out the divorce agreement and all the screenshot information. I packed them into a sealed bag and personally delivered it to the reception office of my high school. The broken pearl necklace and the first ring he gave me were burned and discarded by me in the workshop. Along with them turned to ashes were the countless love letters he once wrote to me. On the final morning, I had breakfast with Zane as usual. As usual, I sent him off to work. Zane seemed a little apologetic. I had planned to take you to the hot springs today, but I broke my promise. I looked at him, smiling lightly. It's okay, work is more important. Hurry, don't delay your business. Zane looked at me tenderly yet with guilt. Wife, you're always so considerate, so good. I've been so busy with work these years, I haven't spent enough time with you. I gazed quietly at him, but my thoughts drifted far away. The young man who once warmed my cold hands in the winter morning fog. The man who knelt in front of his parents for an entire day to marry me. After 10 years together, he was still young and handsome. His love for me was real. His betrayal was real. His guilt and pity were real. But his restless heart and addiction to the thrill of love were also real. I knew I could be deaf and mute, forever just Miss Lynn. No one could take that place. But I didn't want to be his wife anymore. I wanted to be Lynn again. Suddenly, Zane stepped forward and hugged me. Wife, I love you so much. Wait for me to come back, we'll have dinner together tonight. I didn't know how I managed to force out a smile, how I struggled to hold back unnecessary questions. Fortunately, his phone rang again urgently. I pushed him away. Hurry up, don't keep them waiting. He reluctantly turned around, but his steps grew hurried. I smiled and turned to go upstairs. As usual, I changed clothes and went to the garden to tend to the plants. I had a simple meal for lunch. After my nap, I got up and changed into clothes for going out. I grabbed a bag that contained all my important documents and items. As I went downstairs, the maid smiled and asked, "Are you going shopping or for tea?" I nodded and smiled lightly. No need to prepare dinner tonight. He wouldn't be coming home for dinner tonight. And I would never return again. The driver took me to my usual club and left. I went downstairs, and the car arranged by my teacher was already waiting at the street corner. The car had a confidential license plate, so ordinary people couldn't track it. I clutched my bag tightly, crossed the street, and got in the car. As the car door closed, the phone rang. The name flashing on the screen was Zane. I didn't hang up. But deep down, I knew this was the last time I would ever speak to him. Zane's voice was full of frustration and guilt. "Wife. I'm ashamed to even tell you. I have an important social event tonight that I can't cancel. I won't be able to come home for dinner. But I promise I'll come back early tonight, okay? Wife, please don't be angry. I've already sent Linyu to pick up the gift I ordered for you earlier. You're going to love it." I gripped my phone, staring at the endless street outside the car window. Beyond the hustle and bustle of traffic, there was a profound emptiness and silence. The image that had lingered in my heart for 10 years. The silhouette of the boy in the blue and white striped school uniform. In that instant, he completely vanished from my heart. I knew clearly that I no longer loved him. Zane carefully asked on the other end of the line, "Wife, why aren't you saying anything? Are you angry?" "Forget it, I'll cancel it. I won't go. I'll come back and have dinner with you tonight." I lowered my gaze, staring at the empty spot on my ring finger. "No need, it's fine. You go ahead with your work. Emma has invited me to dinner tonight. I'll try to come back earlier, okay? If it's too late, you can just stay at the office, no need to keep running back and forth. No matter how late, I'll come back." I didn't speak again, and Zane said a few more words, before quickly hanging up. I put my phone back in my bag and slowly closed my eyes, feeling the gentle bumps of the car. Zane stood at the window in the hallway, cigarette in his mouth. The sky outside was pitch dark, and the night was growing late. Lynn used to have poor health and a very regular routine. At this time, she should have already been asleep. Tara came out of the examination room with red eyes, and Zane had already put out his cigarette. He glanced at her and coldly asked, "What did the results say?" "There's some light bleeding. The doctor recommends bed rest and quiet recovery this month. Then don't go to school for classes. Stay at home and rest. Husband, will you stay with me?" Tara said, clinging to his arm in a pitiful manner. Zane frowned and pulled his hand away. "I've told you before, don't call me that. I only called you that because there's no one around. All right, I'll have the driver take you home. Aren't you staying with me? I feel really unwell today, I'm scared I might bleed again." Zane walked straight to the elevator. "Didn't the doctor prescribe medicine? Take the meds and rest well." "I'm not a doctor, staying there wouldn't help." Tara bit her lip, almost crying, but she held back her tears, afraid of annoying Zane. She followed him into the elevator. Just before getting into the car, Tara couldn't hold back and turned to call out to him. Zane looked at his watch and seemed visibly impatient. "What now? Will you come tomorrow?" Zane raised an eyebrow. "Didn't the doctor say no intimacy this month?" "It's useless to try with you. I'm going to spend this month properly with my wife, so you better behave." Tara was both angry and aggrieved, tears streaming down her face. Zane, remembering her pregnancy, tried to comfort her a little. "Take good care of yourself, I'll come visit when I have time." Tara watched him get in the car and leave without even turning back. Her tears froze on her face, and she didn't know when her teeth started to ache from clenching them. She couldn't understand, she was young and beautiful, what did she lack compared to his sickly wife? Every time she thought of this, she hated Lynn to the core. But she couldn't let go of Zane, or the things Zane gave her. She could only endure it. Zane's car stopped downstairs. When the maid came out to greet him, he asked as usual, "Is the wife already asleep?" The maid, who was taking his coat, was startled. "Wasn't the wife with you?" Zane suddenly stopped in his tracks. "What did you say?" The night was deep, and only the lights from the house illuminated him. The wife went shopping and had tea in the afternoon. When the driver went to pick her up in the evening, she said there was no need, she was having dinner outside with you. The maid became more and more nervous as she spoke, her voice trembling. "The wife told me in the afternoon not to prepare dinner tonight." Zane suddenly stepped forward and grabbed the maid's collar. "What else did she say?" "Not a single word should be left out. Tell me everything clearly." The maid, frightened, turned pale. "Nothing else, nothing else. She just said not to prepare dinner." Zane suddenly released his grip and shoved the maid away. As he quickly walked upstairs, he took out his phone and called Emma. "You're looking for Lynn?" "We didn't meet today. But in the afternoon, Lynn said she made plans to have dinner with you tonight." Zane's voice was unnervingly calm. It was a calmness that even he couldn't believe. But no one saw, the hand holding the phone was trembling. "Lynn did call me, but I had a surgery. We agreed to meet another day." Zane didn't even know how he hung up the phone. He called some of Lynn's close friends, but they all said they hadn't contacted or met her today. Zane stood outside the master bedroom, the door tightly shut. In that moment, he didn't even have the courage to push it open. How could he, someone so foolish, hold on to false hope when Lynn was such a smart person? Did he really think she knew nothing about all his actions? When did she find out? How much did she know? Could he still earn her forgiveness? Zane nervously recalled something from years ago. They were both in college at the time. Due to a club event, he got a bit close to a junior. The junior had a crush on him, and many people noticed. Lynn had mentioned it to him twice, but he didn't take it seriously. After all, he loved her so much that he didn't care for any other woman. Later, at a club dinner, he helped the junior avoid drinking and even escorted her back to her dorm. Lynn didn't argue with him, she just directly broke up with him. He was completely stunned, as if the sky had fallen. Afterward, during the 6 months they were apart, he couldn't remember how he even got through that time. He could hardly remember how much effort he had put in to win Lynn back and give him a chance to reconcile. As he pushed the door open, Zane's hand shook violently. The room was pitch black, the bed clean and neat. It was empty. It seemed as though even the unique scent that belonged to her had vanished. Zane quickly walked in, futilely opening every door. But each room was empty. His hand trembled as he dialed her number. The line was connected, but no one answered. Zane struggled to calm himself. He lit a cigarette, took a deep drag, and then called his assistant. "Send someone to look for her, right now, go check." "Mr. Zhou, what should I check?" He told his assistant about the club Lynn had visited earlier that day. Where did she go after leaving the club? Where is she now? Who has she been in contact with these past few days? Check her documents, the airport, high-speed rail stations, bus stations, don't miss anything. Also, check her phone's location, and notify me as soon as you have any news. Zane turned and went downstairs, getting in his car and driving straight to the airport. There weren't many places she could go. Besides her hometown, which was several hundred miles away, there was also the city where one of her best friends from college had married. Zane tried hard to calm himself. He told himself he had always been discreet. He had warned his friends, and no one dared to talk nonsense in front of her. Tara certainly wouldn't. So maybe she just heard some rumors by chance. Maybe it was simply because he had been coming home late too often lately. He had spent less time with her and broken promises several times. Maybe she was just uncomfortable and wanted to teach him a lesson. Things were different now. They were married, their interests were all tied together. She was in poor health and had been resting at home. Without him, she was like a bird released from a golden cage, she wouldn't survive for long. Zane tried to comfort himself like this, but it felt utterly useless. All the way, his heart was pounding. His chest felt like it was boiling, and his entire heart was in agony, as if it were being fried in oil and fire. When he stopped at a red light, he dialed her number again. Still, no one answered. Just as he was approaching the airport, he got a call from Linyu. The wife left the club around 4 p.m. But the surveillance footage on the entire street was blocked, so we couldn't track her whereabouts. We checked the airport and high-speed rail stations, but there's no information on her traveling. Mr. Zane, is Lynn still in the capital? Zane gripped the steering wheel tightly, suddenly letting out a breath of relief. Go find her, no matter what, get her found. Also, has the phone's location been tracked? We can't track it. It seems Lynn's phone's location has also been manually blocked and interfered with. Zane's mind exploded in a buzz, blanking out completely. He couldn't hear anything Linyu said after that. The only thing that suddenly crossed his mind was what she had said the day she asked him for money. She had said she prepared a gift for him, and it was in the delivery office of their old school. According to the agreement, he was supposed to pick it up in 3 days, tomorrow. But he couldn't wait another second. By the time he sped to the school, it was already past midnight. The light in the delivery office had long been turned off. He didn't think too much about it and got out of the car, banging on the door. A sudden chill touched the tip of his nose. Zane instinctively raised his hand to touch it, but instead felt the cold snowflakes. It had started snowing in Beijing. He and Lynn had become a couple on a similar first snowfall. Zane stood there, slightly dazed, in the gradually thickening snow. He couldn't snap out of it for a long time. It wasn't until Old Man Song called him a few times that he suddenly snapped back to reality. What was handed to him was just a simple brown paper bag. The moment he took it, it felt like holding a burning coal, and he instinctively wanted to throw it away. Maybe he already guessed what was inside. Maybe he didn't want to face it at all. But in the end, he still opened it. The first thing he saw was the words "divorce agreement" in bold letters. On the last page was her handwritten signature and fingerprint. Below that were some printed chat records. Aside from that, she hadn't left him a single word. But it seemed like everything that needed to be said and done had been made very clear. Zane only glanced at the chat records before crumpling the paper into a ball. He handed Old Man Song a cigarette, apologized, and thanked him politely. Then, he drove straight to Tara's place. When he opened the door, Tara was half asleep but overjoyed, rushing over to hug him. But she was stunned when he raised his hand and slapped her. Zane didn't say a word, just slapped her a few more times with a cold expression. Tara's face swelled, and her mouth was bleeding. She was knocked off her feet, collapsing to the ground, clutching her abdomen, crying and begging for mercy. Zane looked down at her coldly from above, then, without a hint of pity, kicked her in the abdomen. Tara was in so much pain that she almost passed out, rolling on the ground while clutching her belly. Blood flowed from between her legs, staining the white carpet in large patches. He still felt it wasn't enough. He bent down, grabbed Tara by the collar, and almost lifted her entire body. "What do you think you are?" He squeezed Tara's swollen face, pressing so hard that her jaw nearly dislocated. His handsome face was almost contorted into a sinister grimace. His voice, however, remained cold and calm. "A prostitute dares to make trouble for my wife? I let you stay pregnant only because I didn't want my wife to suffer. Do you think you're precious just because you're pregnant? Tara, who gave you the nerve to harass my wife and upset her?" Tara felt her vision darken in waves. The pain in her abdomen felt like a knife twisting inside her. She was terrified and regretting everything. Why had she been so greedy? Why did she want to take Lynn's place? If she had just quietly had the child, wouldn't wealth and luxury still have come to her? I won't dare again, Zane. I really won't. Please, save the child, I can't keep it. Zane pushed her away with disgust. It's too late. Tara, you'd better pray to God that my wife forgives me and comes back home with me. Otherwise, your life will be truly over. Zane, this is your child too. Tara writhed in pain, her body convulsing, helplessly lying on the ground, struggling in agony. Her bloody hands reached out, trying to grab Zane. But he stepped aside, watching her pass out from pain. Then he made a phone call, send her to the hospital, as long as she doesn't die. Zane didn't even glance at Tara. He turned and left the room. By the time he reached downstairs, the ground was covered in white. Zane was only wearing a shirt and pants, but he didn't feel the cold. He dialed Lynn's number again, but no one answered. Zane lowered his gaze, staring at the wedding ring on his fourth finger. It suddenly occurred to him that Lynn hadn't been wearing the ring for several days now. So, that day in the hospital, she must have seen and heard everything, right? But at the time, she didn't question him. Not a single tear fell from her eyes. How disappointed must she have been in him? Zane didn't dare to think about Lynn's feelings at that moment. Just as he couldn't find the words to describe his own feelings at that moment. I followed my teacher directly to a small town in the northwest, 1,000 miles away. The conditions were simple, and the schedule was tight. The teacher was always worried that my body wouldn't be able to handle it. But after enduring the initial discomfort, I gradually adapted to this fast-paced lifestyle and work. I got a new phone and number. But I kept my old phone turned on, and the number wasn't deactivated, it was just left at my place and not carried with me. There were almost daily calls and messages from Zane on my old phone. But I didn't answer or look at any of them. After arriving in the Northwest, I called Emma and briefly explained what had happened with Zane. Emma was so angry that she scolded Zane on the phone for a full 10 minutes. No wonder you left without a word. Lynn, Zane has been going crazy looking for you these past few days, and he even came to the hospital to block me several times. But I really didn't know where you went, so it was useless for him to block me. He also seemed to have asked every classmate who was close to you. I told Emma, if he contacts you again, just say you don't know anything. I know, don't worry, I won't let him harass you. But Lynn, will you come back? Of course, I'll come back. I still need to go back and finalize the divorce procedures with him. What if he insists on not divorcing? I smiled, it doesn't matter. I'll be traveling all over, and he won't be able to find me. We'll just drag it out. The Zhou family definitely won't agree. He's the only son, and he has a throne to inherit. After ending the call, a few junior classmates came to invite me out for dinner. Dinner was lamb hot pot again, and the aroma was mouth-watering. Back in Beijing, because of my health, I always paid special attention to my diet. I had to eat less beef and lamb, as I was worried they would be too nourishing. But now that I'm here, adapting to local customs, I feel like I'm getting more energetic. The teacher laughed and teased, you've clearly looked much better these past few days. You didn't look like this when I first saw you, your face was so pale. Isn't it because I'm happy being with you, eating well and sleeping well? I held my bowl and moved closer to the teacher, leaning on her shoulder, to act spoiled. How old are you, and still acting like this in front of your juniors? The teacher said with a feigned look of disdain, but then she placed a big piece of meat in my bowl. Eat it while it's hot, eat more. I lowered my head and took a big bite of meat, but suddenly my nose felt sore. I didn't want the teacher to see me cry, so I ate all the meat in the bowl, tears mixing with the food. That night, after returning, my old phone kept vibrating. Zane seemed to have lost his mind, calling non-stop. After finally calming down, I sent him the first and last message: the divorce agreement is signed. I'll return to Beijing to handle the divorce procedures with you. Don't disturb me about anything else, or I'll deactivate this number permanently. The moment I sent the message, Zane called again. I still didn't answer. He didn't call again, but after a long while, he replied with one word: okay. The message was sent. Zane slouched back on the sofa, suddenly covering his face and laughing silently. His friends sat by, exchanging glances, but no one dared to speak. He had been searching for Lynn like crazy these past few days. Although he didn't make it public, it gradually spread within their circle. His mistress Tara had a tough time too. I heard she was sent to the hospital too late, and they couldn't save her uterus. Yet, Zane still wouldn't let her go. A few days ago, she was expelled from school, and her parents, feeling embarrassed, severed ties with her. Now, she was barely hanging on, living on thin ice. She wished she could pray day and night for Lynn to come back, so Zane would let her off the hook. But Lynn seemed to have disappeared into thin air. There was no news of her. Zane, was that message from your wife? Someone asked daringly. Zane leaned back on the sofa, eyes closed, silent for a long time. Just when everyone thought he wouldn't answer, Zane suddenly spoke: she really doesn't want me anymore. The atmosphere froze for a moment. How could that be? You've been together for so many years. Once your wife calms down, just apologize sincerely, she'll forgive you. Zane just shook his head. You don't understand her. As soon as he finished speaking, the door was suddenly kicked open from the outside, slamming hard against the wall with a loud crash. Everyone was startled and turned to look. Zane slowly sat up straight. He squinted slightly, and upon seeing who it was, he suddenly raised an eyebrow and sneered. So it's you, Ethan. Ethan didn't respond, nor did he look at anyone else in the room. He walked straight to Zane. He kicked over the coffee table and then reached out to grab Zane by the collar. No one expected that such a lean man would have such great strength. Zane, half drunk, was dragged to his feet and slammed hard against the wall. What, you want to fight? Zane laughed sarcastically, a nasty smile on his face. Before he could finish speaking, Ethan swung his fist and slammed it into his face. Zane, I told you 5 years ago. If you treat her badly, I won't let you off. Zane turned his face, and crimson blood poured out of his nose. He nonchalantly wiped it away with his hand, then threw a heavy punch in return. The room quickly descended into chaos. Bottles shattered, tables and chairs were overturned. Drunk and disoriented, Zane soon found himself at a disadvantage, knocked down by Ethan. Both were bleeding. Zane's face was completely unrecognizable. Ethan had a bloody gash on the back of his hand, and it dripped with blood. Who the hell are you to interfere with my wife and me? Zane propped one leg on the sofa, sneering repeatedly. What, heard we're having issues, and couldn't wait to swoop in? Too bad, Ethan, 5 years ago Lynn chose me over you, and 5 years later, it's the same. Ethan slowly clenched his blood-dripping hand. The wound on the back of his hand tore deeper, looking grotesque. But he didn't feel any pain. Instead, it felt like a thorn had pierced his heart, digging deeper with each passing moment, disturbing his peace day and night. Zane laughed viciously. We were once brothers, but let me give you some advice: stop obsessing over someone else's wife. We've been married for 3 years, and I don't know how many times we've slept together. He deliberately stared at Ethan's face, savoring every inch of pain reflected on it, enjoying the thrill of the torment. All rationality was gone. He only wanted Ethan to suffer, to break down. Her first love, her first kiss, her first night, they were all mine. What do you have to compete with me for, Ethan? Everyone knows how much Lynn loves me. Because she loves me, she can't tolerate even the tiniest grain of sand in her eyes. The more she fights with me, the more it proves she cares. So what's the point of you running here from far away? Do you think you can take advantage of the situation and win her over? Don't delude yourself, Ethan. Lynn has never had you in her eyes, and she will never love you. Zane leaned on the sofa, struggling to get to his feet. Even though he was in a pitiful state, standing in front of Ethan, the former failure, he still had to keep himself above him. I won't divorce my wife. Give up on that, Ethan. You'll never have a chance. Ethan looked at him, and deep in his eyes, it was as if a layer of frost had settled. It was cold to the extreme, yet it was also final to the extreme. Zane, if I had known 5 years ago that you were this kind of scum, even if it meant her hating and resenting me, I would have taken her away from you. What makes you think you can compete with me? Or are you just cheap, and like going after leftovers? Ethan suddenly raised his hand, his blood-stained hand slamming into Zane's jaw. He looked at Zane, his eyes bloodshot. I'm waiting for your retribution. Zane never believed in retribution. But when he finally traveled thousands of miles to that sand-covered small town, he could only watch helplessly as Ethan found Lynn first in the desert. In that moment, he suddenly understood, his retribution had arrived. It came swiftly, and unexpectedly. He wasn't prepared, and had no power to fight back. The yellow sand swirled, blocking the sky and sun. He didn't know if Lynn had seen him. He could only watch as Ethan carefully supported the injured Lynn and helped her into the desert off-road vehicle. When she got into the car, she was too weak to do it herself. It was Ethan who picked her up and placed her inside. He still followed that vehicle to the hospital. Her teacher stepped forward and stopped him, but allowed Ethan to follow her into the examination room. The wind stopped, and the swirling sand settled. He spat out the sand in his mouth, lit a cigarette, and smoked one after another without stopping. He anxiously asked her mentor, has she been with you here all this time? Yes, she's very hardworking and can endure hardship. Zane swallowed the bitterness in his throat. Has she been struggling these days? The teacher raised her chin and looked at him faintly. No, she's very happy. Zane's eyes were frighteningly red, perhaps from the wind and sand. Teacher, do I still have a chance? Will she forgive me? I really regret it, I know I was wrong. He looked like a helpless, confused child. This tall man clutched the teacher's sleeve, almost on the verge of tears. I don't know, but I respect all of Lynn's choices. Teacher, please help me, will you? But the teacher shook her head, pushing his hand away. Lynn is my proudest student, I know her well, and her temperament is very much like mine. No one can help you in this matter. But teacher, we've had 10 years of feelings. The teacher smiled coldly, almost disdainfully. So what? I was married to my ex-husband for 15 years. He even kneeled and cried, begging me. But a man who's been dirted is still dirty, no different from trash. Zane, women are not trash cans. If you really care about your 10 years together, let her go. The day the divorce paperwork was finalized, Zane called out to me as I was leaving the Civil Affairs Bureau. His expression was dazed, and he had lost all vitality. Those eyes that once held so much affection and recklessness had long since dimmed. Zane walked up to me and stopped. He gazed at me earnestly, and in the depths of his dim eyes, a faint glimmer began to rise. We can still be friends, right? Like we were 10 years ago, starting with friendship. I shook my head. No, we can't. But Lynn. I firmly interrupted him. Zane, I told you 5 years ago that the word forgive does not exist in my dictionary. Back then, I compromised, I took a step back. So, 5 years later, I'm getting my retribution. Then let's not be friends. Let's start as strangers. Give me one more chance, just this once, I swear. Zane, do you still not understand me? In your eyes, the mediocre Lynn is actually a stubborn person. Zane suddenly looked at me. You heard everything that night? I nodded faintly. Yes, I heard everything. The last glimmer of light in his eyes shattered like cracked ice. But Lynn, you took away my most beloved pearl necklace and our wedding rings. You still can't let go of what we had. He looked like a drowning man, desperately trying to grasp at the last straw. But I shattered his final illusion. I burned them all at the jewelry workshop. Zane, you can go down to the sewer and look for that so-called old love. I didn't say another word, turning to leave. But Zane quickly chased after me. Are you going to be with Ethan? But Lynn, all men are the same. He's only after you because he hasn't gotten you. Once he does, he'll make the same mistakes I did. I looked at him with faint eyes. So what? After having such a terrible ex like you, what's there left to lose? Are you going to marry him? Marriage, I'll consider carefully, but I'm still young. I can have both the career I like and the man I like. Do you like him? I looked at him and smiled. Does it have anything to do with you? I was standing by the roadside waiting for the traffic light when I saw the car parked at the curb. In the early spring weather, Ethan was leaning against the car, wearing a black jacket. New buds and pale yellow were sprouting on the bare branches, and the wind still carried a chill. He stood there quietly, yet occasionally looked toward the direction I was walking from. Until the moment he saw me. He straightened up immediately, as the sun broke through the clouds, casting a soft, bright halo in his eyes. He walked toward me with large strides, as the traffic light turned green, and the frozen crowd started flowing again, becoming the rhythmic beats on the zebra crossing. I stood still, not moving. Only a smile curled on my lips as I tilted my head slightly, watching him walk toward me with long strides, like a scene from the most enduring movie. He finally reached me, looking down at me. He seemed nervous, his breathing uneven, as if the cold wind had made his ears flash. I looked up at him, vaguely recalling the rebellious boy from many years ago. It turned out that those countless encounters on the way to and from school were not mere coincidences. The accidental glances we exchanged in those encounters were not just chance. I couldn't bring myself to think about what Ethan must have felt back then, as I was wholeheartedly in love with Zane. When I rejected him and chose to be with Zane, how much heartbreak did he hide behind that final glance, that last smile? But love has no reason. Young Ethan and Zane were completely different types. At that time, the sensitive and melancholic me preferred Zane, who knew how to make girls happy. It seemed like the natural thing to do. I have no regrets about the past, but I've decided to look ahead. Have you been waiting for a long time? I asked him with a smile. Not long, just right. His hand, hanging by his side, slowly lifted a little, as if he wanted to hold my hand but hesitated. I called his name, lightly stamping my foot. Ethan, the spring wind in Beijing is so cold. Are you very cold? Yes, it's so cold, my hands are freezing. I extended my hand to show him, my fingertips slightly reddened from the cold. Ethan didn't say anything, he just gently held my hand. He rubbed my cold fingertips until they gradually regained warmth. He naturally held my hand and placed it in his coat pocket. The traffic light turned green again. The crowd began to move, lively once more. Ethan pulled me along, and we blended into the crowd. Spring had arrived, and the air was growing warmer. It was the perfect season for love. Lynn did end up marrying Ethan. At the wedding, there were so many of their old classmates, friends, and teachers. Even more than when he married her back then. The wedding wasn't as grand and flashy as when he married her before, but it was incredibly warm and happy. Zane saw the entire wedding process on a friend's social media. People around him advised him to let go and stop paying attention. The couple were deeply in love, like honey dripping from a jar. Why should he bring pain upon himself? But Zane couldn't control himself. He was like a thief, hiding in the shadows, spying. He didn't know whether he wanted to find a crack in their relationship or if he was just torturing himself, rubbing salt into an already painful wound. He couldn't sleep the whole night, flipping through every photo and video of them together. Lynn was still as beautiful as ever. The hardships of working tirelessly, braving the wind and the elements over the past few years hadn't worn her down. On the contrary, she seemed more vibrant and healthy than when she was Zane's wife. It was said that over the past few years, Ethan and she had been apart more than together, with months or even half a year without contact being normal. Zane had also secretly wondered, Ethan was a man after all, and as a man, Zane knew all too well the worst traits of men. He didn't believe that Ethan could really remain loyal and free of complaints. He even had people secretly keep an eye on Ethan, hoping to catch him in the act and expose him to Lynn. But years had passed, and Ethan remained unchanged, never making a misstep. Ethan had proposed several times, but Lynn had always refused. He secretly rejoiced when he found out. Unfortunately, the good times didn't last. Although Lynn hadn't agreed to marry him, every time she returned to Kyoto, she stayed at Ethan's house. At first, he eagerly looked forward to Lynn's return because he could steal a few glimpses of her and relieve his longing. But later, he dreaded Lynn's return. Because in his dreams, he would see Lynn and Ethan together in bed. Zane thought that perhaps he would never forget it, even until death. When Lynn first moved into Ethan's house, they didn't leave for 3 days. 3 days later, they went to the supermarket together. Ethan was beaming with joy, and Lynn appeared as fresh as a new bloom covered in dew. He sat in the car, watching with self-torture. In that moment, he felt like he could die. The second year after Lynn married Ethan, she became pregnant. It was also that year, when he returned home drunk, that Tara took her revenge on him. The past few years had been a living hell for him, and all his anger had been directed at Tara. At first, Tara was afraid of him and endured it silently. But later, when her emotions finally broke, she decided to go all out, breaking things off with him completely. But he didn't die. It was just a strange coincidence that, as Lynn's baby grew day by day in her belly, he was instead sentenced to a death sentence by the doctor. He would spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair, and had lost the ability to have children forever. Zane thought, that bastard Ethan, his words really came true. He had betrayed his beloved wife and had kicked away the only child he would ever have in this life. And now, he had lost the one he loved forever, and would never have children again. He had truly received his retribution. And for the rest of his hopeless, long life, he would live in the retribution he had brought upon himself, never finding peace.